On this week's episode of Whitetail Cribs, we're headed to Ohio to visit with Rich Riley. Rich pours concrete by trade and is a whitetail hunter at heart. Get ready to take a glimpse of Rich's life and hear some of his favorite hunting stories from over the years. Be sure to smash that like button if you enjoy the episode.
The Exodus team is traveling around the United States to take a look inside the trophy rooms of some of the most interesting whitetail hunters in the country. From giant bucks, unique racks, and riveting stories, welcome to Whitetail Cribs.
Hey y'all, come on in. I'm Rich Riley and welcome to my crib. I'm just a normal blue collar guy. I pour concrete for a living. My wife's a registered nurse and this is what we call home. This is the living room. It's where we like to sit down, relax, watch a good movie or something after a long hard day's of work. Got my dog up here. He's a new pup. He's only about 7 months old. He's a German short-haired pointer. You know you're crazy about whitetails when even your dog revolves around whitetail hunting. We're going to try to turn him into a shed hunting dog. Come through here. This is the kitchen, dining area. My wife likes to cook. We definitely like to eat in this family, so we like to sit down, have a good family dinner. We think that's very important. Fridge, there ain't much to the fridge in here. Got some sweet tea, some deer jerky, bunch of kids yogurt and stuff. I got a 5-year-old daughter, as you can tell. We'll go out to the garage. Got a deer out here. Here in Ohio, we're allowed to bait. So me and my buddy, we actually have a farm. We hunt together. In a good way, we like to take inventory. We like to feed. And everybody does it around here. So if you don't, you're kind of missing out. Got some Lucky Buck mineral corn. A couple of habitat tools I think every hunter should have. These are hinge cutting poles you can use for pulling down a tree when you're making a hinge cut. Makes things a little easier. Good chainsaw, leaf blower, stuff like that. This is one of my first bow kills I ever shot. I've been bow hunting for about 20 years now. Started when I was 14 years old when I shot him. I'll never forget the hunt. I climbed up in my stand. I was kind of a mobile hunter doing a hanging hunt, and I seen this deer out in like a tall CRP grass, and I seen his horns moving. And 14 years old, right away, I was stoked. I was like, man, that's a buck, and he looks pretty good. I hadn't killed a buck up until that point. I tried grunting at him. He wouldn't get up. He wouldn't really move. So I elected at the time to get down and make a stalk on him. Now thinking back, I was like, that was a pretty bold move, but we went for it. And I made a reference to where I thought he was, and I crawled up to where I thought I was about 20 yards, and I stood up. As I stood up, I drew all in one motion, executed the shot. He ran over and crashed. And I was hooked. So now we'll go down to the basement and check out some more deer. This is a little area where me and the buddies, we like to hang out, throw some darts, play the drums. Back here is where I kind of store my hunting gear in the off season. I do take some things and keep them in my truck permanently come hunting season because I never know when I'm going to get the chance to get out. Just started saddle hunting 2 years ago. I went to the tethered saddle, and man, I tell you what, I love it. It's comfortable, it's easy, lightweight. I think every hunter should have a pair of hip waders, not only to get away from the other hunters, but just to get in areas where deer like to be. A lot of times people won't cross water or put in the extra work. But my old bow, I've always shot Hoyts all my bow hunting career, you could say. But this year, I've gotten the itch to switch to the traditional. For whatever reason, I feel like I've shot enough deer with a compound that I want to step up my game and have a little more of a challenge and go traditional. So we'll see how it goes. I'm sure there'll be some ups and downs with that. And then now we'll get into the room we've all been waiting for. And this is a picture of me in 2004. Straight after high school, I graduated in 2004. I went out west to Knoxon, Montana. I went to a guide school out there for 3 months and then started working immediately for an outfitter right out there for about 3 years. Along with that, I also worked for 2 other outfitters here in Ohio, Clear Creek Outfitters, Ohio, and Wicked Ridge Outfitters, Ohio, with Ben Rising. And so I've also had my hand, not only with the bucks I've killed, but I've had my hand in killing a lot of nice mature bucks. And everybody says, you know, it'd be a dream job, but the only thing that I could say I didn't like about it is I didn't get to hunt. So I lost out on probably 6 seasons of my own hunting career. But I wouldn't trade it for anything because I enjoy, you know, putting people on a big deer, a deer of their lifetime. From there, we just got some DVDs, you know, like everybody has their hunting collection. I used to buy them every year. Now with the internet and social media and everything, don't have to buy so many. But some of my favorite in here are probably Dan Infalt's tactical DVDs. I've really learned a lot from that guy and how he approaches hunting big bucks, and it's just, I want to try to soak up and learn everything I can. So I also use my computer as a resource. You know, I get on Onyx on there, look at maps, do aerial scouting. I'm a member of the Hunting Beast Forum, and I recommend anybody that's not a member to that they should sign up and join, because I've learned so much over the years on that forum. Now we'll get into some of my deer that I've harvested over the years. Like I said, I don't have the biggest deer on the wall, but I'm proud of all my deer because I've shot all of them with archery equipment. I've never killed a buck with a gun. I guess we could start with this deer. I killed him in 2005, like basically right out when I got back from out west. I was hunting a small, actually it was only like a 5-acre woodlot. There was some bigger timber across the road. But this deer, it was like early November. He was cruising a standing cornfield. I looked up, I seen him going across the edge, and I grunted and he stopped. I knew he heard me, and he was kind of looking around, and I just gave him one more short little grunt, and he turned and came on a dime. Went right underneath me. I shot him kind of straight down, and I'll never forget, he ran across one of our major 2-track highways, and there was blood literally crossing the highway, and he died right on the other side of the road. So that was definitely a fun hunt, one I'll never forget. From there, we can talk about this deer. I killed this deer on my small 20-acre property I used to own. But this deer I didn't have a lot of history with. I don't even think I had a trail camera picture of him. A lot of these deer I didn't really have pictures of. But I seen him in my food plot the evening before, and he would not come into the food plot. I had some does out there, and he was just kind of standing on the edge, and he eventually worked off. Never did get a shot at him. And it was the very next day. On the other side of my 20 acres, there was a kind of a ravine. He was cruising that ravine. He was all by himself, and once again, I grunted that deer in. Just a couple soft grunts, and he turned and came to the tree, shot him, and actually watched him crash within sight. And then this deer, same thing, was another late October, early November hunt. He was with a doe and just kind of trailing her, and I shot him inside a little, once again, 50-acre timber piece. So from that deer, we'll hop over to this deer back here. Kind of a goofy, gnarly looking deer, once in a lifetime deer, you know, one that you don't see very often growing with the characteristics like that. But he was, I think, another Halloween buck. It was an evening hunt. I remember I was sitting there, one of those where you're nice and relaxed and you're kind of dozing off, taking a little nap almost, and I heard the old infamous leaf crunch, and I looked down, like just woke up, looked down, and there he was, 20 yards cruising. I was hunting in a funnel where they cross the road a lot, and it was now or never, and I seen he had a tall, unique rack, and it happened pretty fast, but I shot him, and I'll never forget when this deer bolted out of there, he ran square into a tree, broke his jaw, and when he finally crashed, he almost did like a bear death moan, because I've heard death moans from bears out west, and he did like a bear death moan, so I'll never forget that. That was pretty unique. From there, we could touch on this deer. This deer was actually a late season deer. This deer, he was on the farm. I had some pictures of him, but he never was daylight until we got a big front that moved in late in the year. You know, he was wore out from the rut. He had to feed. I think we got like 2 inches of snow the night before, and got real cold, real nasty, and I shot him on an evening coming to a picked cornfield. He came out, I made a great shot, and I watched him crash too. And then this deer here, I also shot on the ground with my bow. It was one of those days. It was also early October, or late October, early November. I sat all day. I was kind of frustrated, didn't really see nothing. I had like an hour left of light. I was hunting a farm that had a big CRP. I was like, you know what? I'm going to get down and I'm just going to get a little aggressive here and take a walk. Well, I seen him cutting across the CRP with a doe, and I had a stand on my back, bow in my hand. I wasn't really ready. I was like, oh crap, that looks like a good deer. So I threw all my gear down, and I immediately did a snort wheeze, and the deer stopped, and he turned on a dime, and here he comes. So now I'm scrambling, trying to knock an arrow, because I didn't really know if it was going to work or not. So I knock an arrow, he comes within 20 yards, and I execute the shot. I did not see that deer fall, but he only went about 100 yards, and definitely proud of that deer as well. He's big, heavy, massive 8-point. Then this is another archery deer. Like I said, all of my deer I've killed with a bow. This was a Halloween buck. I'll never forget this hunt either, because I hunted that morning. This is back when I was young and I just wanted to be out there. Had to hunt. Well, it rained. I mean, downpour rained. And now, in my stage of my career, there's no way I would hunt through that. But back then, I just wanted to hunt. So I sat through the rain, didn't see nothing, and I was soaking wet. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go home. I'm going to throw my clothes in the dryer. I'm going to go to another farm. So I got out about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, mid-afternoon. Got up in the stand. I was sitting over standing cornfield. Did a little calling sequence, hit the horns and stuff, and back over my shoulder, I see a doe coming out of the standing corn, and right behind her is a big 10-point. I'm talking a big 160-inch 10-point probably. Well, they start coming right to my tree. The doe's coming right underneath me. I'm like, I'm going to get a shot at this deer. As soon as they got underneath me, that buck took like a bound at that doe, and the doe took off, and that buck was taking off with her, and I'm full draw, grunting, man, trying to get him to stop. And they're gone. They're out of my life. So I put my bow down. I'm kind of upset. You go from the highest of highs in bow hunting to the lowest of lows real quick. I called my buddy. I'm like, dude, you got to get in the woods. The deer are moving. It's mid-afternoon. They're cruising. And I'm literally on the phone with my buddy, and I look at the trail they came in on, and this buck's coming right down the same trail. So I literally was on the phone. I'm like, I got to go. There's a buck coming. I hung up. He turned broadside at like 20 yards, took a different trail, and I smoked him, watched him fall within, 100 yards or whatever. And I called my buddy right back. I'm like, you're never going to believe what happened. I just killed a buck. So that was pretty crazy, being on the phone like that and everything. And then this deer was another late October, Halloween, early November time frame. I did have one picture of this deer, and just one picture, and I hunted back in the same spot where I shot that big 6-pointer in this ravine, and this deer came through. He was kind of cruising all by himself. Once again, I hit the grunt call. I like to get aggressive and call, and it worked. He turned on a dime. He came through, and I smoked him, and he probably only went about 50 yards. A lot of my deer I've seen fall or, go within 100 yards and they crash, so I'm pretty proud of that. Okay, so save the best for last. This by far is probably my most favorite deer out of all these deer that I've shot, because I killed this deer on public ground. I did some scouting 2 years before I actually shot this deer, and I found what you could call a buck bedding area and some well-used beds and some historical rubs, and I felt like there was a deer using this area. Well, I never really gave it a sit or hunted that area, and then one day I just decided to go to this spot that I had in the back of my mind that I scouted. I knew there was buck bedding in that area, and it was early November, and I literally got within to about 150 yards or so from where I found this bed in my previous scouting, and I sat there pretty much all day. Didn't have a lot of action, had a couple smaller deer come through and some does, small bucks, and then right about 4 o'clock, I caught a glimpse of this deer going up the ridge, and all I seen was a tall rack, and I was like, man, that looked like a pretty good buck. And he was heading towards some private ground. I thought he was going to be gone out of my life. And then next thing I know, I'm watching a little 4-pointer off to my left. This is about 15 minutes later or so, and I hear a grunt behind me. And I turn around and I see this guy standing there heading down the ridge. So I did a very, very soft grunt, which I knew the 4-point was probably going to pick me off because he was so close, which he did, but he just kind of bounded. And this deer did not like that for whatever reason. As soon as that little 4-point bounded, this deer turned on a dime, like instantly, ears back, fired up, ready to go. He came in to within like 40 yards several times. I could not get a shot, and he was starting to get nervous to where he knew something was up. He had that sixth sense, and he was about ready to go. And finally, I was so fired up that I had drawn my bow back, let it down, to where I couldn't almost draw my bow back. Like, never had that problem before, but I couldn't get it back. And I finally get it back, and when I did, I jerked, and it kind of popped off my rest because I shoot a drop away rest. So now I'm freaking out even more, and this deer's finally going away. So I'm trying to maneuver in this tree and get my arrow back on, and luckily he stopped, and I had one little hole, probably about 50-yard shot, which I normally don't take those shots, but I smoked him. I heard him run down the hill and crash. The only bad part about this deer was it took me and a buddy 4 hours to get this deer out of this public ground because we were back in there probably a mile and a half, and it was steep and rugged, but I would do it all over again to shoot a good quality deer like that on public ground. So that's pretty much it for down here. And as they say, you guys got to get out of here. But I can talk about this stuff all night long. But thanks for coming, guys, and checking out my crib. But you guys got to go.
Thanks for watching this episode of Whitetail Cribs. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And if you're wondering who the heck we are and how the heck we travel across the country to record these episodes, we are Exodus Trail Cameras and simply believe quality trail cameras should not cost a fortune. That's why 5 years ago, we started a direct-to-consumer company to tackle some of the biggest frustrations we've seen as typical trail camera users: product longevity, product performance, and customer service. We simply build cameras that flat out work in the harshest conditions and back them up with best-in-class customer service. We're proud to say we have the industry's leading 5-year warranty that even includes theft and accidental damage coverage. If you'd like to learn more about Exodus and the products we have to offer, click the link in the description and head over to our website. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in a comment below or shoot us an email.